The playoffs are here, well underway. We had 8 games, all the teams were in action. We had a couple of surprising results, I would say. I would think that the Memphis result was surprising, but
Yeah.
I had that series swinging either way. I mean, but just given the form that Memphis were in regular season, I think that was a little bit of surprise. I had the Dallas game as a surprise, but then Luka was injured, so I have an excuse why that was a
Yeah.
surprise. And I think the Philadelphia Raptors series, I expected that to be close. So that could go either way. So I wouldn't call that a surprise because Philadelphia obviously are the stronger team and they have
Mm-hmm.
MVP contender Embiid and they finished higher in the seeding. So actually, my pick was a surprise that the Raptors would win. Actually, you also picked the Raptors, right? So
Yeah.
our pick was a surprise, but not surprising that the Sixers went and won that game. But that'll be a close series. We have tons to talk about. So let's get started. We had 8 games. We saw all the teams in action. Which game was the most exciting for you in all of these? I mean, it has to be the Brooklyn Nets,
Yeah, for sure.
Boston Celtics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a final. The atmosphere was
Yeah.
intense. The Boston crowd are known for this. Kyrie was there. He was playing the role of the villain, returning back to his old
Yeah.
team about all the drama after all the drama that went on when he was in Boston, and then him walking out on Boston, then coming back, walking on that logo, created that drama, and then burning sage and the arena. He is a bit like Trey Young. He embraces the role of a villain. I think he enjoys this. It spurs out the better performances from him. He's always good, but I think this kind of spurs him on. And you could see that yesterday. He was on fire. He
Yeah.
was single-handedly keeping Brooklyn Nets in the game, I would say. Kevin Durant had an off night, one of those rare nights. And the Celtics did an amazing job on KD that they didn't let him go. Tatum was guarding him amazingly well. Marcus Smart was brilliant in defense.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he was totally unselfish, I think, which really set up the winner. And we've seen this online as well on Twitter. A lot of people saying last season, Marcus Smart would have taken the shot. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, there have been at least half a dozen instances on this podcast where we've said that Marcus Smart shoots more shots than he should.
Yep.
And is this the coming of the Celtics? I mean, they really look like a team well-drilled, well-oiled, unselfish now. They have a leader in Tatum on the field. Off the field, it could be Marcus Smart, but on the field, Tatum is really showing it. The last few months have been impressive for Tatum.
Yeah.
Is this the coming of Celtics? Do you think if they get over the series with the Nets, and if they get over comfortably, let's say, that will inspire some confidence. That will inspire them. They would probably face the Bucks in the next round. Do you see Celtics coming of age in this series? No,
not against the Bucks. I think everything else I do see them achieving this season. And it's a bit of a tricky situation. So first of all the teams that we talked about, where the plan was either by design or inevitably, the plan was to flip the switch at some point and turn on the heat. Boston were the ones to do it. Like everyone else, the Clippers couldn't do it, and they didn't have the personnel. Nets are still struggling. Lakers as well, But Boston, we were laughing at them first part of the season.
Yep. They were 10th, 11th.
Yeah, and still having not fixed the one glaring position gap they have at the big man position at the 5. And we thought, what are they doing? And the one guy that couldn't fix it, the coach got promoted to the front office. They have a new coach. Like, what's happening? But I guess the time they invested in the new coach paid off. He really seems to have worked out something. And not only do I think this to be Boston returning to the level that they should be playing at, I think this is where you'll start seeing. I think I touched upon this last season that I genuinely think it is laughable to compare Tatum and Brown. I think on potential, now let's see where they end up, but on potential and what can be of his career, Jason Tatum should be well ahead of Jaylen Brown. For me, it's almost at the level of Lillard and McCollum. That's the gap. I think that's beginning to show. One of the biggest advantages, let's start with size, I think, because he's a two-way player. Size is something it's tough to overcome, and he has that advantage, Tatum. So you're going to see all of these things. Now, I think they're going to cruise past the Nets. The only trouble they'll have is because of the Nets' big two and just how easily they can dominate the offensive end. But we saw it yesterday. If Boston can stay in the game, Nets just cannot defend. They cannot get a stop. It is embarrassing. It wasn't a Hail Mary 3 that sunk the Brooklyn ship. It was a layup at the end of the day. however good the move, whatever, it was a layup. That was a total defensive failure.
Right.
Kevin Durant was on his hands on his knees. It reminded me of that. You remember that FIFA World Cup thing where France knocked out Brazil and
everyone there on the knees.
there was a defender who was just panting and hands on knees, and that's the guy who was responsible for covering the Henry, who eventually scored the goal. It reminded me of that. Durant was just done. He was standing at the top of the key, just watching a movie, watch it play out, and they got the win. No defense, no party. We've been saying this forever. So this is the coming of age of the Boston Celtics. Again, dare I say, re-coming of age. I don't think they can take the Bucks. That'll be a spectacular result for them if they can.
True.
I don't think that's going to happen. Which really begs the question, even if they do get to, because the best case scenario then is the semi-finals this season. Now, this is a squad largely with the same pieces that have been to the conference finals twice. Thrice, I don't even remember now. So, does this really count as a success for them? I know it's a good turnaround, but in the grander scheme of things.
Well, I think it does answer a few questions. Can Tatum and Brown play together? I think, yes, definitely. After the season, you're not going to talk about breaking them apart and is this the best fit? I think they can play together. What are they missing? I think they need, they discovered Robert Williams this year. I mean, he was there, but I think this year they found that he can play, he can defend, he can play in those big games. So, that's one answer that they've got. They've discovered Marcus Smart's potential in just being the playmaker. I think that's great. He stopped shooting a lot of shots. That's great. I think they've answered a lot of questions. So it would count as progress, but in terms of results, second round would not cut it. But I don't think the Celtics fans are going to be disappointed if the second round exits.
No, of course not. But I'm saying at a franchise level.
At a franchise level, yes. I mean, they have all the pieces now. They probably need to fix the end part of the puzzle. Maybe get an replacement for Horford. He was the starting guy, right? And you don't know how many with the number of miles he has on in his body. Don't know. Probably they need a replacement there.
Who's done surprisingly well this season.
He's amazing this year. He looked washed out when he moved to the Sixers and then back last year.
Maybe it's that city.
Which game or which matchup disappointed you the most in all of these? You expected it to be close, but was not really close. It just went one way.
I think the Sixers Raptors, I think that outcome was quite like, what's going on? Because
I agree.
I expect this to be a well-fought series. Maybe it was just a one-off. I don't know. But it was a bit of a bizarre...
and Embiid didn't even get 20 in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
He was the fourth highest scorer.
Maxi did everything, right? It's not even like one of the superstars went off. So that was a little... that's surprising, I must say. But that's probably the biggest dud for me. Everything else was decently well contested. Even the Bucks-Bulls match. Surprisingly low scoring, almost like a 90s playoffs game. Still went down to the wire, but then this one was just a done deal.
But I think that series is going to be easy. The Bucks never look like losing.
No, for sure. But I'm saying it wasn't like, oh, this is a blowout and people are going to shoot free throws with their eyes closed. It wasn't that scenario. They were comfortably in control, so they never really put pedal to the metal. That's about it. But
were you surprised at how easily the Warriors beat the Nuggets, or you expected that?
No, that I expected. I picked a gentleman's sweep. Even that one game is just like, what if Steph Curry doesn't come back? That was like a charitable thing from my end. So for me, I have no doubts about that series. Heat taking down the Hawks, that was a big margin also, but it wasn't quite. I didn't expect as much from this game as I did from the Raptors Philly game. I mean, you can't. You gave up 131 points in a playoff game. That blows my mind. And most of that came in the first three quarters. The fourth quarter, finally, both teams decided to contest. So that was just terrible. That shocked me. Let's hope it's just a one-off for the Raptors.
I still expect that series to be close. I think the Raptors are a fighting bunch. I don't think they'll give up so easily. And same with the Hawks. I think the Hawks were just coming after the play-in series, right? So obviously they were a little more fatigued than the Heat, who had nice 1 week rest. I think that series will be a little intense. You saw Jimmy Butler and Trae Young get at it yesterday, headbutting each other and whatnot. Given the size, I don't think Trae Young should be doing that. But I think that series will be close. Heat were on fire yesterday. You saw Duncan Robinson get 8 out of 9 threes, 130% effective field goal percentage, highest ever in playoff history. I don't think that's going to repeat. So the Heat had a great day yesterday.
Yeah, but we literally knew this was coming. Even before the play-ins, we were saying there's going to be that one game where Heat have a bunch of players that can get streaky hot, and there's going to be one game where Duncan Robinson goes nuts.
Yep.
If this is it, it came a little too early. They pressed the
Very
last
early.
button a little too early.
Very early. Yeah, you have similar, right? You have the similar game for Jay Crowder in Phoenix Suns.
Exactly.
He deserves it for the best days. So
He'll
you got
maybe
to give
even
him
do
credit.
it once a series, maybe
Yep.
sometimes,
Yep.
right? But
Yep.
Duncan Robinson, I don't know. But I like this. This is some squad. It's just so difficult to read this Heat squad.
Yep.
They come in and you look at them, you're like they're not doing anything this season. And we thought so in the bubble. We're thinking so now, but I think now I'm a little more confident in the Heat. I think this season's Heat
Yep.
are a lot more
Mhm.
assured than the one in the bubble.
Right, and they play the winner of Sixers and the Raptors. So I think they have an easier
Good
matchup
run.
compared. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't have to face Boston or the Bucks, which I think are the best two teams in the conference, right? So
Or Brooklyn, who are going to get knocked out by one of the best two teams. So one or
yeah.
the
So
other is
all
going
the so all the top three are in the other side of the conference.
Yeah.
Good for the Heat. I mean, that's what you get for finishing on top, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's quickly talk about the Memphis Minnesota series. How good was that matchup, and did that result surprise you at all, given how good Memphis were in the regular season?
No, I'm glad this came up. I'm actually picking the Timberwolves for the win in this series.
I saw that. Wow.
When
Okay.
we chatted, yeah, maybe in 6, maybe in 7. I'm actually going with the Timberwolves. I think with the Grizzlies, and this is a wild theory. I think both two young teams, it's tough to really call it one way or the other. So I'm gonna go with something really abstract. Ja Morant had a spectacular start to the season, right? At some point, they were MVP whispers. Now, I don't think that is credible. MVP would have been too much. MIP, sure. But when he went down injured and he was out for a while, there was an extended stretch of games where Memphis played exceedingly well and were actually more efficient with Ja off the floor, which means with his usage rate off of their minds, they were more effective. And they didn't lose their pace. They were just cruising along, and then Ja comes back in. It's the same old team. It's the same old Grizzlies with or without Ja. Now they're with Ja, which statistically tells you a little less efficient. It's got to frustrate someone who's been making a name for themselves in Ja's absence to now have to give up the ball to this celebrated prima donna. But really what it boils down to is I think this team is still finding its feet, Memphis. And they've had a big run of games leading up to the playoffs without Ja. Now they've got to integrate him back into the team. That means someone loses minutes, someone loses touches. And we've seen strange things can happen in the playoffs when rhythm gets disrupted. Like Kyle Kuzma is playing 20 minutes a game. Now you're asking him to play 32, and most of that is rebounding. It doesn't work. It takes a long time for him to get back into shape. So I'm splitting hairs at this point, and I'm saying maybe there is a gap that the Timberwolves can sneak through. And I think they're cold as fuck. I think the Timberwolves, they don't give a damn. They have two players who simply couldn't care less what time is left on the clock in D'Lo and Ant. I just love this team. It's super exciting. I'm glad that they're finally delivering on something. But this was dead to the rubber, right? Then they gave up Wiggins. They decided to hold on to Cat. Two number one all round picks. First round picks. And they gave up Wiggins. They got in whatever yada yada yada, including D'Angelo Russell, who's a number 2 pick, I believe. And they did something with that. And then season over, Cat injury again, blah, 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 whatever. Number 1 draft pick this time. Again, got Anthony Edwards. This is a team. And then they added Pat Bev just for that, a little bit of that playoff experience. Yeah. And I love it. Pat Bev is kind of like reminds me of their PJ Tucker, basically, from last season.
I agree.
From the Bucks. So
he's entertaining to watch. I think of all the players in that matchup, I think Pat Bev is the most entertaining, not skill-wise, but just the energy he brings on and the attitude and the shouting at players and whatnot, getting fouled out. I love it. I love the matchup. I think this is going to be close. I'm hoping this is the one that goes to 7. Let's see. Any last thoughts before we cut for the day? You think any team is going to make a comeback? Any team that lost in the first game and will make a comeback in the second game? Which one do you see?
Yeah, Mavs, I think, are the obvious ones. I'm hoping Toronto are the next, but I think Mavs with Luka back are going to be a handful. They gave Utah a run for their money even without Luka. Now part of that was done when stinking it up in the first half. But they were good. I liked what I was seeing from especially Brunson and how he was running the floor.
Right.
Bringing in Kleber at the right moments, bringing in Dinwiddie, getting him touches, getting everyone touches. That was most impressive. Usually you see that with more experienced point guards like a Rondo or a Chris Paul, who gets everyone into the rhythm. That maturity Brunson seems to have already. Whether he has the skill or not remains to be seen, but that understanding he seems to have developed already. That's great when Luka comes, because Luka already has it in volumes. So once he comes back, I think they're going to be tough to. They're a tough beat for the Jazz.
I'm with you. If I had to pick two teams, those were my two teams, Raptors and the Mavs coming back. But that's all on today's episode. We'll come back and talk tomorrow. 3 fun games today. We'll come back and talk all about it tomorrow, and it should be a fun one as well.
All right. Cheers.